I was just looking at your top 5 strengths, and you've got number 1 is strategic. Yeah. Number 2 is communication. And Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that communication is kind of rare. We don't see a lot of people with communication high in those areas. Belief is number 3. So you've got there's 4 domains: strategic, influencing, executing, and relationship. Most of yours fall up there in the influencing and strategic. Doug, you're so great at pulling out what that means and how Chris operates. What do you think about the way these show up and based on what he just said?
Yeah, I mean, we could just start with his top talent, strategic. You know, what strategic does is what Chris was just talking about. It evaluates what is the best path forward, and it does it by eliminating those options that won't get us there. So so Chris has this ability to see around the corner, to see where we're going, and not only that, but then he has this ability to put his thoughts and ideas into words in ways that draw other people in. There's probably 7 examples of that so far on this podcast, just in how he talks, and then with belief, just really being guided by your core values, and that is definitely Chris, in terms of just really clear about what's important, who's important, and honoring that in everything that he does. And as you mentioned, Lynn, Chris has all these talents: influencing and strategic thinking, which those are all about the future, right? So the strategic is what are we going to do in the future, and then all his influencing is like, one, what's going to be different because of what we've done, and who else is going to be on the team because of how we can grow, can scale and grow and see that impact follow there. And so, Lynn, you also mentioned communication, one of the less common, but particularly when you add in significant, self-assurance, activator, woo to that communication. Now those are the number of the influencing talents that at times can be, kind of create a opposite day effect, in terms of the intent is like the intent of how you're showing up can also often be misunderstood by the other person, but because they're so less common than other strengths. And as humans, we have a tendency to assign motivation to what we see, and so the motivation behind what Chris is doing can often be misunderstood by others, because others are trying to put their own motivations to what they're seeing Chris do.
That drives me crazy.
Yeah, I bet it does.
It comes across as being aloof and not caring, and just being disinterested or doing my own thing or on my own island. That's what it comes across as. And all of those are completely negative. And it's a funny thing is that my strength also is my biggest weakness, biggest strength, biggest weakness, because when people have those issues with me, which happens on an hourly basis, right. When people have those issues with me, my strength is like, well, I mean, that's just their problem. They're just going to have to get over it, because I'm over here. And Doug is always like, remember, you're way over here and everyone else is back here. You probably should go back there with them for a little while, and that's super frustrating.
Well, it's particularly, with as wired as you are to see the impact of your vision, and how frustrating, it's like, another thing about your strengths is that it's big picture. So it's not a lot of details, but that's what allows you to move so fast, right? That you don't take things down to the 10-foot level, and you're moving quickly. And with being so focused on the future, that as people fit into that future, they're really important. But if they're not important to the future going forward, then that's when you have to remind yourself, to go back to them, go over and spend some time with them, which is something that takes intentionality.
It's absolutely exhausting.
Yeah, and because you don't, you're not burdened by some of the other talents. It's like you don't necessarily do it very well. Like even when you go over to that side, you know, it can land clunkily, if that's a word.
Well, you know, we see this a lot with leaders that are futuristic and big picture, because they're moving ahead so forward. And often those folks that are coming to you, you know, thinking you're a jerk, or it's because they don't understand how they fit into the picture, and they don't realize that it's not that you're excluding them. It's just that you trust them to take care of the details. That's their job. So, you know, they're not realizing that it's really, you trust them to handle that part. And I was really struck by you shared, I'm going to call it a formula for lack of a better word. And I think it really ties into your belief. You had outcome, purpose, value, ties to the money. And that seems so clear to you, and easy to make decisions from.
Yeah, so mission and purpose equals money. And it's not about the money. The money symbolizes mission, purpose, value, impact. And so, and I like to, because people don't like to talk about money. They think it's crass and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And that, I got to tell you, at one point we called money oxygen. You know, that was back in the good old days. You know, that was, and I always felt, and that was such an important moment, like a seminal moment, you know, where we're talking about oxygen. We just need, you know, is the organization breathing well? Do we need more oxygen, you know, and that was, so money equals value, purpose. I always say it's the quickest and straightest path to know that you're doing something valuable. And I want to put a real clear bow on this, see what you guys think, is that, people still buy valuable things. People still put a higher value on things that are more expensive and that have that bigger impact. And we've talked about the fact that as an entrepreneur, you have such value in the things that you're doing because you're so close to them. You never transfer that value to other people. I think that that's the new selling technique, is that, you know, it's all about how you transfer value, purpose, and wisdom to your customers so they can have the same thing you can have, so you can have a common conversation. But the thought is, well, I'll just cut the price. I'll just cut it by 50%. I'll give you 50% off. You want to do that? Would you do it if you did? Because you have value in that. That 50% cut is a big deal to you, but it might not be to your customer. They've got to have the same value before they can start, you know, seeing, well, by the way, I never cut my price at all. Right. We talk about that because the price is attached to integrity, which is attached to value, and it's all looped together. I feel like I'm getting a little rambly there.
Well, I feel like we could go on for quite a while, and I think you did put a nice bow on that.
You're not going to stop this, are you? Let's keep going.
Okay, well, we will.
No, I'm kidding.
So, just for the sake of bringing things to a close, it's been so much fun to have you with us. We got to figure out a way to do more of this with you. So we're just delighted you spent time with us. We loved having your wisdom. We hope that what we're learning and learning with our clients will trigger the folks listening to think about what they're learning from each other and from their own clients. So Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for having me.
We're delighted. Doug, thanks for all your insights. And Jay-Z, appreciate you being there behind the scenes. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.